Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Ratu Gadis Mbacita Junita. I'm from 2021 class C. So in this video, it's about assignment that we get from WhatsApp group. So I will start this video from assimilation 1. So phonology, the study of sound in language, is the focus of the scientists of phonology because communication is continuous and words interact with one another. Their sound can alter as they become together in space, either within or between words. Change in sound can result from this interaction exponentially at the location where words join. It affects sound greatly because of intonation and the quick flow of speech. It's not only about the last sound of one word and the first sound of the next. Change requiredly or inside word, timeless and at different pace of speech. Sound change historically drives language evaluation or introduction linguistic variance with a language at a given period. Phonological process like as assimilation, distribution, intonation, deletion, and metathesis are responsible for those modifications. The most required process, assimilation, is when the sound of adopt one or more characteristic of nearly sound. This might happen probably or completely between neighboring sound, contiguous, or at the discam non-contiguous. For word, progressive or backward regressive. The word pan is used as an example to demonstrate particular contiguous resultant assessment in which the vowel, the subject, nasal sound, and productive nasality prior to the nasal sound being pronounced. The participation highlights how sound interact and adapt in speech, demonstrating the complexity of phonological process and their impact on language variant and change. Assimilation. Assimilation 2. The topic of discussion is linguistic assimilation with a particular emphasis on nasalization and articulation. Change at our occur inside word or between words during space. The idea of removing assimilation in which the sound that comes after affect that sound that comes before result in somewhat communication alternation in pronunciation in English word now becoming nub or z, influencing the next sound in those become those, D-O-Z-Z-A, are examples of gradual assimilation in Persian, where one sound becomes closer to another. Another example for Poland show even more progressive assimilation, the word of flower. Accessibility, particular contiguous change in sound, characteristics changing the pronunciation of sound due to voices to voices shift. So, next is assimilation 3. The discussion example expands of assimilation and examination situation in which sound that are not next to one another affect assimilation in pronunciation. Example of non-contiguous assimilation come from in English, Pakistan, Persian, and Latin Italian. Changers. Required assimilation, also known as collection, is the type of assimilation in which sound and sound B combine to form sound C. C through AB becomes CC rather than an or BB additionally rather than one being like one another. They join together, college that become mutually similar to something else in purpose of become CC. The pronunciation of gaff as goth in Persian is example of particular contiguous progressive assimilation. Because of this Proto-Indo-European origins, Sanskrit exhibits complete non-contiguous progressive assimilation in case where such as syllabus communication become similar. English is a good example for recapitulation assimilation or claiming when two sound coming from a third sound, such as raise your hand become raise your hand. The topic of horizontal language evaluation, such a Latin transformation into Latins, is the explorate word like octo become into otto with double T and without C. It's OTTO. In Italian illustration, how phonological process rather than variation lead to language change. It's an example of regressive total contiguous progressive assimilation. Variation referred by variant like good and goth in Persian exotic with language while language change as a sign in Latin to Italian shift replace old form with new one. The example period shows how phonological process can lend to both variant and language evaluation over long period. Dissimulation 1. Dissimulation 1. Assimilation according to my language is more common than dissimulation. When speech flows more easily and sounds grow more similar, assimilation takes place. Dissimulation, on the other hand, occurs when sound distinction is required to report word clarity and decision. Example of the transition from ancient Greek to modern Greek were given, showing how frictive sequence in the former become fricative stops in the latter. This transition from that to stop sound illustration how the sound loud underway dissimulation and become less comprehensible to the first. Dissimulation was demonstrated in English example using the word February, where the initial word alveolar approximation convert to void paternal approximation. This example shows non-contiguous situation in regressive direction, when the similarity between the first and the second sounds digress. The talk focused on how dissimulation, albeit less frequent than assimilation, is important for giving space defense and immediately since it affects how sound vary through language. Dissimulation 2. Dissimulation is phonological process that happen when sound that are close to one another. Loss come of their head characteristics can occur between adjective constituous or non-adjective non-constituous sound and be either progressive or regressive. An example in English demonstrates that change in pronunciation from etera to extra, etcatera, to extra, excatari, for differentiation and probably easily pronunciation. This non-conspicuous reserve dissimulation convert that to alveolar sound to velar alveolar pattern. The change in Spanish from the Old Spanish word hombre to complement word hombre demonstrate constituted gradual absorption. The nasal stop sound N changes to trill R, which less than similar between the two sounds. Vowels in the data set into an indigenous language of California show a systematic shift from might to height, leta to leta, duya to dunya, duya, to dunya. This non-constitutive regressive stimulation show a change in vowel from might to height into different word, resulting in discrimination of sound. Deletion or elision. Elision or deletion is the process of taking sound out of the word so that is the absent or become unrecognizable. In English, deletion or then particular consonants such as D in handed or the vowel in family is often example of the include handbag become handbag and family become family become family. Two differently is self from General American English or resultant pronunciation RP. Recently English use the technically known as H dropping, in which the complex H is gradually dropped from word like happy, which is pronounced as happy. And then Persian colloquial deletion of Persian exhibiting deletion on and space pattern. For example, dahan kardan, which means to stop, become dah kardan, losing both end sound in dahan, and mikhanan, which means they are eating, become miknan, mikHNIAN, from MEKHINAN. It's losing in. Dropping the A sound in mikhanan. The use of abracadabra instead of oscuro in Mexican Spanish indirect shift of the language. The abracadabra is now the more formal regulated from the osogra, which has formerly thought to be informal, has begin except in formal situation. Eptenthesis or insertion. A teaching called insertion, sometimes recalled as practices in full ways, appending or one or more sound to a word in in between word, effectively turning nothing into something. The inquirer are phonemic on British English require to the instead of R sound in some word, especially in fast talking space. When it this accent being the original pronunciation, this phenomenon is demonstrated by instead such as low and order or sour it become lower or order or sour it. Unlike case when the R is already present but only pronunciation in crane context, like with word like car in British which become car. Unless followed by vowel, the influence R is not present in those words. So in language evaluation, there are instead of inspiration that historically or directly. For example, the word of often in old English shown instead changing from often to often, and finally become oven in modern English. Similarly, loan words that example of insertion in language development are school become escuela in Spanish. As a phonological process in segregation assimility show how sound of phonological were add to word requiring in change in pronunciation or linguistic evaluation over time in various language. Metathesis. Metathesis probably from the two sound which place with a word. Transposition from AB to BA. It's an accord between both vowel and consonant required in sound shaping. For example, in English, equate ask become asked, ask become ASAKSUD. Transformation into introduce. Diacritic change in language evaluation display materials such as the Latin word parabola changing to palabra in Spanish, where ra and la have sought place. Cross-linguistically, metals is overt like transformation perium in Latin to peliogo in Spanish. Variant across Chile change such as in English, kitchen is pronounced as chicken. And language like the Lithuanian were specifically change between pre-constant to stop clusters. Methods we have the integrate phonological phenomenon of sound transformation, positing impact word communication and linguistic variation across language and development styles. So I think that's all for this video. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.